The points were obviously shared between England and Portugal in a rainy Portimao. Listener Han Solo messaged us on X/Twitter saying, I need the calm and reasonable take on England that only this pod, calm and reasonable, all right,
100%,
can provide. So let's do our best, Rach. It kind of took England around 10-15 minutes to kind of find their feet, I felt. But also, once they found their feet, I thought there was kind of fluidity there. There was flair. I think, we can't ignore that. I mean, that first goal was like...
unreal.
What?
The pass, the cross, the finish. Yeah.
It was like there was just a cohesion there. I mean, the Lauren James ball, like crossfield ball, was absolutely pinpoint perfect. I mean, you can tell the relationship with like Bronze and LJ is so strong because it just felt like there was a symbiosis between them.
I know where she's going to be there.
100%. I don't even think she looked up when she played that ball. And then there was a beautiful curl on it that meant that Lucy could kind of take it on. And then
even the takedown, she took it down in the air.
Literally that. And that was not an easy ball either to like dig out and get that cross.
It looked like it was going out and she somehow wrapped her foot around it to get
100%.
a perfect cross on it.
I would have spoofed that into the crowd all day. All day. I think 99% of people would. But then it landed like literally central.
Yeah. It was like Alessia was just running and it was like, oh, that hit my foot. It's gone in.
100%. And I think, to be fair, I mean, the keeper should have done more with it. The placement of where that ball landed, you should be coming out and collecting that ball. But I think the pace of that attack, I don't think the keeper was properly set up for it. But then, yeah, Russo. And then and also getting the nutmeg as well.
There was also a player, I think, coming in on the back post. So for the keeper, it's like, where's the cross going to go? Is it going to go to her? Is it going to go back post? And yeah, it was a beautiful move all in all.
It wasn't a lofty ball either, so it didn't give you that time. It was very like
fizz.
It was a zip. It was 100%. But yeah, I mean, what do we think about? Let's start first then with the kind of the lineup, shall we? What were we expecting? Serena made 8 changes to the England side from December's 1-0 friendly victory over Switzerland. Obviously, Alex Greenwood, Lauren Hemp, Georgia Stanway, Fran Kirby, Beth Mead, all out injured. So just the little ones, really. Mary Earps got the nod over Hannah Hampton. Jess Park started and LJ back in the front 3. Grace Clinton given the 8 role and Ella Toone returned to the 10 role. What were we expecting? Was this...
Yeah, I was kind of expecting that, especially given the injuries they had. I think a lot of us were wondering who would replace Georgia Stanway. We probably thought it was going to be Grace Clinton. But I also felt like England looked like they were missing those players.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Particularly in the second half. I think it was underwhelming, but I don't think it was disastrous. I think the first half was good. I think they should have scored more in the first half, understandably. But I thought, they took a little while to find their feet and then they found that rhythm. I thought sometimes if they'd kept up the intensity and the speed, that was when Portugal struggled. Mm-hmm. Like when they moved the ball really quickly, Portugal struggled to handle that. And I think too often they would have some kind of intense moments and then they'd sit back a little bit and Portugal would kind of find their feet again. And I think actually they need to capitalise on those moments where a team is maybe struggling to keep up with that pace. Obviously should have scored more. Unlucky not to score more,
Definitely.
I think. And I think it would have been a completely different second half if they had put 1, 2, 3 away instead of just the one. I think Portugal's game plan was keep it tight, get into the half time, change the shape in the second half. I thought the tactics were really good. England struggled to adapt then. And I just thought for England, only going in 1-0 up made them feel the pressure in the second half. For Portugal, going 1-0 down, if you like, going in 1-0 down, they were like, we're still in this. And it was just a completely different half of like confidence. Do you know that kind of way in the second half?
But I think in the first half, Portugal, what I found really spicy was this kind of very quick counter-attack and the pace. Mm-hmm. I mean, Jess Silva, as soon as she took the ball, she was driving it forwards. It wasn't any messing around or anything like that. And I think that was something that they knew that England were going to press forward and create space at the back. And they absolutely capitalised on that. I've got to agree, the strategy was absolutely bang on. I think I've also got to give a massive shout out for Clinton. I thought the link-up play between her and Ella Toone, and especially with Kira Walsh as well, I thought that really escalated. And I think Clinton's work, and this is Susie Rack's words, not mine. I wish I'd said it because it's poetic, but she said it was the 21-year-old was metronomic in the first half, and that she was. It felt like she was defensive, she was up front. It kind of felt like there was nowhere that she wasn't there. And for her to be doing that at such an early age and creating that link-up play, I thought was absolutely incredible. I mean, she made an incredible shot blocking tackle early on in the first half, and I thought, credit to her. She's really proven her worth in the squad.
I think for Portugal, like sometimes I think maybe fans go into, because England have won the Euros, that's their level. They have to win every game,
mm-hmm.
and
the expectation is so high.
And I think sometimes what's forgotten is that
was 3 years ago.
that, other teams are improving. And, last time England played Portugal, it was a 0-0 draw.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea that England were going to go in and, batter them and score a whole load of goals, I think is a little bit naive. They've been improving. They've got, as you said, really dangerous players on the counter-attack. They've had a pretty consistent lineup for quite a while, which I think helps them in terms of like knowing where each other's going to be, and if they change tactics, they know what to do. I think their coach is one of the longest serving international coaches. He's been there since like 2014.
I'm pretty sure there's a few players on that squad who have 150 caps plus individually between themselves.
There are 7 players with over 100 caps in that squad.
Madness.
Yeah, Anna Borges, remember her from Chelsea?
Madness.
She's like 190 caps or something like that.
How is that even possible?
Yeah, so I think as a team that knows each other quite well and knows the coach very well, he tactically did it very well, and they didn't lose in 2024. Like, so this you just kind of have to remind yourself sometimes of what you're coming up against. And I think
this is not an underdog team. This is not like a.
They were going to be tough.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
and rightly so. And especially with England not like in their top form at the moment, you know it's going to be tough. And I do get a bit frustrated sometimes. Like, I'm frustrated with the subs. Personally, I thought they should have come on sooner. I think if you're trying to impact the game, Portugal scored in the 75th minute?
75th minute.
So definitely enough time to get some players on and maybe change the game. And maybe something I'll ask you, but like, for me, I sometimes wonder if Serena trusts her bench the same way she did at the Euros, and whether the lack of friendlies and this level of expectation allows her to rotate and try new things as much as she would like. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes it feels like she'll throw Millie Bright up front. Do you know what I mean? Rather than say, look to her bench, or they come on late. Does she really feel they're going to impact the game? Granted, there was injuries, and I think if those injuries weren't there, we would have had a little bit more impact off the bench, right? We'd have seen that. But I just wonder, does she have the same level of flexibility now that every game is like a Nations League game or a must-win game? And I just wonder if we don't see as much flexibility because of that.
She's a naturally consistent person. I think that, I mean, we saw that with the Euros, but I feel like she's gone through kind of seasons of it. So seasons of consistency, seasons of where she's had to kind of bring in younger players or kind of give them more minutes, more rotation. And then I think in these kind of situations, I don't necessarily think, I think she wants to be consistent and she wants to choose the same people. She wants to rely on the same people, because I think that's how she felt that we built and won the Euro squad. But I think then when you're put in a situation when you've got so many injuries taking place that you can't not rotate. I think naturally, inherently, I think Sassy Viggs is a consistent head. But yeah, every game matters now. So I think there's a squad depth there. That's the thing. It's not like you were looking at that bench and thinking, Christ, like, I mean, bloody hell, it's slim pickings here. Yeah. Like, you've got so many people to choose from. So also, I'd also say in the last like number of windows, it doesn't feel like she has had her full squad to choose from.
Definitely. There's been key players missing at key times. And you do see that impact, and that impacts the flow then, because then when players come back, you've got other players that have to drop out and all that kind of jazz. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting the going to the bench quite late, and I think we've seen that a couple of times in previous games where the substitutions don't feel like they come when you need them. And I just wonder whether it's trying to manage disruption of flow or whether you feel they're going to have the impact, and which one you think that, whether that's what's kind of.
Well, you've kind of preempted listener Layla's question on Instagram. Given the way the game was going, should Serena have made changes earlier? I think yes, essentially. I don't think, I mean, when you kind of look at all the, because I like to have a look at other narratives just to make sure that my own narrative is, in and around the voice of logic. And you sort of look at the response to Portugal's threat in the second half, and you kind of look at when that goal was scored, and you can kind of see it coming. I mean, England looked so exposed at the back. It just, it felt rife, and I don't think England really posed any, I don't know, real oomph. It was just disappointing.
It felt like they were hanging on.
Yeah.
And I mean, we say, yeah, the goal was coming, but then at the same time, one shot registered on target. So, and that was the goal. So there were
But it felt like that kind of game where they were just going to pounce on something or a mistake or on a lapse of and it just concentration.
Once Lucy Bronze came off, it just felt disjointed. They didn't seem to have the same. They didn't react well enough to Portugal's change in setup, and I think that is a concern around adaptability. I do think taking Lucy Bronze off definitely kind of made the side feel a little bit more imbalanced. I don't know if you think that, but that seemed to be a big difference for me. And yeah, I guess I'd have liked to have seen subs earlier in the game. just in terms of making that impact. But it just did feel a bit like they were almost just trying to hang on. And sometimes I think that's something that England lack, is that ruthlessness to say, let's go and win this game by banging in a couple more goals, rather than we've got the 1-0 lead, let's try and hang on to it. It's such a dangerous...
Well, isn't it just? And then you look at that goal. I mean, we've got to give credit to it. Nazareth. I mean, the most beautiful curling strike I've ever seen. The line on it, the angle on it is absolutely stunning. I mean, Mary Earps, not a chance. Not a chance. I mean, top right bins. I'm pretty sure it skimmed the crossbar going in. It was a work of art. I mean, but that shouldn't be happening. That shouldn't be the thing that decides the game.
And we had Williamson had been pulled out by another player, and I do think it's funny because when I watched it, I don't know why when I was watching it I thought Clinton was on a card, but I was messaging Sophie and I was like, she should have brought her down, and I said she must have been on a card so she couldn't do it. And then about 3 minutes later, the exact same thing happened where Nazareth broke through and Clinton brought her down and Clinton got booked, and I realised she didn't have a booking ahead of that goal. And part of me wonders whether in those kind of in those moments, do the experienced heads like a Stanway go, I need to bring her down and take the card?
Not knock her out.
No, but disrupt her flow.
100%. And it's a tactical foul.
Yes. And I wonder, say now, for example, would the experience of Georgia Stanway know, I need to do that now? Because Clinton then realised the second time round, I can't let her do this again. I have to take her down. So I just thought that kind of stuff was interesting. But unreal goal.
But I think it's still those things that you think she's still 21.
Yes.
While she is still metronomic, it's those kind of game management things that still take time and experience to kind of build up, and knowing sort of when those really hot moments are going to happen.
And recognising the danger quickly.
100%. And just taking one for the team. Yeah. It's one of those. But
and she then did that. She learned so quickly that she did it the next time it happened.
She's an intelligent player. Yeah. She's scarily intelligent. But I think, so I'm looking at some of the comments that Millie Bright made after the game. She said, I think it's a game of two halves, really. I think the first half we had better quality on the ball, a little bit more control. So there's lots of work to be done. Obviously never happy conceding a goal, especially in that manner when it was preventable. Listen, they're a strong team. They tested us tonight. There's a lot to work on ahead of the game on Wednesday. Talking of...
Can I just say, I do find sometimes, and I've said this before after international games, and some of the reporting can just be a bit over the top. And there was a 2 wins and 6 stat floating around that I saw on social media. And when I interrogated that statistic, I realised that it had gone as far back as the Sweden game, but excluded the Ireland game that had happened in the same window. And I don't know why you'd cut your stat there, right? Because that just feels like you're kind of picking the results to suit that kind of 2 and 6 sounds far worse than 3 and 7 or 2 and 5, you know.
Sure.
And I just think sometimes the context around games, and we'll touch on this with Ireland as well, is that sometimes when there's context to things, it's just sometimes not included. Even, they drew against USA, but it was, USA had injuries. But it's well, so did England in this game. But that doesn't seem to really be brought out as one of the key reasons that perhaps they weren't at their free-flowing best.
I do think we've had this sort of very mainstream narrative, I'd say probably for the past year, maybe even longer. I think just after maybe I think it probably started during the World Cup. It was okay, you've made it to the final, but every single game in the final wasn't good enough. Do you remember that? It was
and I'm
okay, we've won, but it wasn't good. It wasn't a good enough win.
You've missed key players. You've had to change your setup. You don't trip and fall into a final in a World Cup. You don't, get lucky and get to a final. To be able to do that, I find that frustrating. And maybe it's just me because I'm not English, and I do think there is this level of expectation on both the men's and women's team that's insane. And as soon as you win something, that's your minimum.
We do like to be dramatic about football.
Yeah,
come on.
No.
Every single thing has got to be a catastrophe. Another draw, it's a catastrophe. There's no consistency. We're not going to win the Euros. This isn't the squad. There's so many injuries.
Do you know what? If they're playing like that in the Euros, I'll be worried, right? But
fair.
I think, and I've seen, if you look back at pre-major tournaments, the amount of times where England have gone into major tournaments and the previous friendlies, you've gone, Jesus Christ. They've lost. They've lost to Canada. They lost to New Zealand. They lost to Australia. Jesus. Do you remember Australia beating England and breaking that ridiculous run of unbeaten games just before the World Cup? And everyone was like, oh shit.
But would you read an article that was England are doing okay?
I would. That's the difference. Well, that's me.
Well, maybe I'm the problem. Just realising.
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. Sorry.
England are okay and fine.
It's all right, lads. Be grand.
Yeah. We've been saying that the form hasn't been that worrying, and I think we've just put that to bed a little bit.
It has been, and like there are things that I'm not, trying to sugarcoat.
Far from perfect,
yeah,
for sure.
And those issues need to be
It's not
addressed.
dire straits. Let's relax a little bit.
But also factor in who's missing, the key players that what they offer to England and not being there, and so there's just, all I'm saying is there's context around it.
100%. And the next test is quite a small one. Spain visit Wembley tomorrow, who made a huge comeback against Belgium after being 2-0 down. It's the most jammy thing I've seen in my entire life. What do we think needs to change for England ahead of this game? Come up with the answer, Rach, right now.
I wish I'd know. I would say Spain won 2-7 at the end of 2024. We're going to cherry pick data.
I love that. Good for you.
Actually lost more games than England in 2024. No,
facts and logic. It's not appropriate.
I do think, yes, while you're looking at that going, oh my God, they were 2-0 down to Belgium, you need to be looking at that and going, they can be, 75, 74 minutes, 2-0 down and win it 3-2. They're such a dangerous team. And I think England we need to look at it. England aren't going to have a lot of possession. Mm-hmm. It's fine. If you're comfortable out of possession and you're disciplined out of possession, it's fine. They can have the ball. It's keeping them in the spaces that it's not dangerous, right? And I think they did that relatively well when England played Spain in the Euros. Everyone will look at it and go, oh my God, England are horrendous. They've not got a touch of the ball. That's the style of football that Spain play. And you just have to accept that. You can't try and play Spain like Spain. It ain't going to work. I do think it's going to be tough. I do think the injuries will play a key part. I think if England struggled for 90 minutes against Portugal and could only play that kind of sharp, good-looking football for a half, that's slightly concerning. But I do think maybe the not having possession might actually allow them to be more disciplined across 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. It is going to be tiring, but, you're going to be looking at your wingers to be quick with the likes of a Lucy Bronze, getting up quick, getting balls in quick. LJ will be key, I think, to breaking that down as well. But yeah, it's going to be tough. It's just going to be a possession-heavy game for Spain, I think.
Big home crowd at Wembo. I think... I do feel a little bit, I don't mean to naysay again, but I do feel a little bit concerned about this game and how it's going to go down for sure.
And also the reaction if they lose.
Yeah, and it kind of feels like the precursor to a potential matchup for the Euros. So I think that's the hype that I'm seeing is going to happen.
They're like magnets, England and Spain, and every tournament we will find each other.
So if England top their group and Spain top their group, they meet each other in the quarterfinals.
Oh Jesus, I don't know. I haven't done that.
Yeah, I think it's the quarterfinals. I think I worked out. I'll hold my hands up if it's not, but it's either quarterfinals or the semi-finals that they meet. They don't meet in the final. So just saying. So this game is the decider for that. Just want to say that up front.
If they lose this, they lose the Euros.
They lose life. Obviously, I think there's going to be a load of pressure heading in to April's fixture if they don't win this. I mean, not escaping the group stage last season, a failure to qualify for the Olympics is...
They did get out of the group stage.
Well, I think it's it's going to really heap pressure on.
Yeah. But, I think... Yeah, I agree. It will be a lot of pressure. There'll be a lot of pressure going into the Euros. But I do think what we were saying there about the World Cup, it shows that England can be a good tournament team. So, to have gotten to the semi-finals of 2015, the semi-finals of 2017, the semi-finals of 2019, winning the final 2022, getting to a final, that's good consistency in a major tournament. And I think that's quite promising when you're going into a major tournament. But yes, understandably, when form isn't perfect, it's a concern.
That's what we needed, that wrap up. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.